Let's continue from where we stopped. In the previous lecture, we discussed about the creation of chart of accounts and modify the chart of accounts and how to delete the chart of account. Now we are going to discuss about another important aspects. When it comes to the general ledger, it is about setting the general ledger default. This is particularly important when you are working in a particular organization. So when you are working out a question, so you need to ensure that, so before you move on to the performing transaction, so you need to make sure right after the creation of the chart of account, you may need to go to this general ledger defaults and you need to set the general ledger defaults there. When come to these general ledger defaults, basically we have to deal with two aspects. One is about the rounding account. The other one is about the account segmentation. In fact, the account segmentation you have earlier discussed when you are initially creating the company as well. But here you can do further adjustments. If it requires, you can do further adjustments over here, and even you can see how that particular default that you had set earlier. එතකොට මේ ලෙක්චර් එකේ අපි කතා කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ මේ වීඩියෝ එක තුලින් කොහොමද general ledger default set කරන්න කියන එක. එතකොට මේක ඊටාම වැදගත් aspect එකක්. ඒතර පුතාලගේ විභාගයේදී ඒ වගේම තමයි මේ කම්පැනියක් work කරගෙන යනකොට පුතාලගේ ටියුටෝරියල් වලදී මතක තියාගන්න ඕන aspect එකක් තමයි අපි chart of accounts හදලා ඉවරුණු ගමන්ම කරන්න ඕන දෙයක් තමයි මේ general ledger defaults වලට ගිහිල්ලා ඒ defaults ටික set කරන්න ඕනේ. අපි transactions කරන්න පටන් ගන්න කලින් අපි මේ general ledger defaults ටික set කරගෙන ඉන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට මේ general ledger defaults යටතේ අපි කතා කරන්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා ප්‍රධාන අංග දෙකක්. එකක් තමයි rounding account එකක්. අනිත් එක account segmentation. ඇත්තට මේ account segmentation එක කියන එක පුතාලට කලිනුත් හම්බුණා කම්පැනි එකක් initially create කරන වෙලාවේ එතන යම් account segmentation එකක් සිද්ධ කරන්න අවස්ථාව තිබුණා. ඒක පුතාලා එතනදී සිද්ධ කරලා තියෙනවා. නමුත් එතනදී අපිට යම්කිසි account segmentation එකක් කරන්න බැරි වුණා නම් මෙතනදී අපිට ඒක සිද්ධ කරන්න පුළුවන් general ledger defaults වලදී ඒ වගේම තමයි අපිට අවශ්‍ය changes උත් කරන්න පුළුවන්. Then let's see how to access this general ledger defaults. All what you have to do, go to the maintain, then the default information, and there you have the general ledger. So just to show you that, you can go to the maintain, then from the drop down list you have the default information. In that you have the general ledger. Here we have the rounding account and account segmentation. So this is something that you are familiar by now. Even we may discuss about both the aspects somehow. Let's start with rounding account. Let's see what it is. It says that the rounding account is an account in your general ledger used by Sage 50 to store rounding differences on financial statement. So here, in fact, all what you have to do is you have to choose a particular account from a drop-down menu. So in that, in the rounding account, there it may gives you the option. The drop-down list may appear once you click on this search icon. From that, you have to select a particular account. Then what is the purpose it serves? The purpose it serves is it store the rounding differences. You know, when it comes to doing transactions, you would be performing several purchase transaction and sales transaction. In that, you might witness that there can be small rounding differences. So when you consider about the way the double entry is generated, you would witness there would be some rounding differences. Say for an example, you may be purchasing several items from a particular vendor, from a particular supplier. In that, when it comes to the computerized software package what we are using when you are going to enter the transactions. So if you consider about how the double entry is formed, you may be purchasing the individual items. So the individual inventory accounts get debit while it gets credit to the accounts payable for the respective customer. So in that, you would see the decimals can involve in this transaction. The decimals can involve. For example, when it comes to the price of the goods, it can be like odd number, say 199.99, something like that, right? So it may be like 275.8 or something. So likewise, some odd numbers can involve there. So especially the numbers with some decimal places. So when you have to deal with the numbers with decimal places, probably you would see that there can be some rounding differences, especially when it comes to like the foreign currency transaction. So because of this exchange rate, you would likely to witness that the rounding differences are there. And again, when it comes to transaction like the acquisition of assets on lease, so there can be some rounding errors. A lot of discounting would involve. So therefore, the decimal places may come into the picture. So when and where you may have to deal with these decimals, the risk of rounding error is there, right? So in this particular case, in order to avoid that, the Sage 50 software, the software package what we use, it will create or it will assign an account to take care of these rounding differences. So whatever the rounding differences that it may be there would be taken to this rounding account. This account can be either a balance sheet account or an income statement account. So when it comes to this account, when you are going to assign the rounding account, it can be either a balance sheet or it can be income statement account. No problem. But typically, we assign the retained earning account as the rounding account. But that is the general practice. You can either assign any of the balance sheet account or income statement account. But when you look at the practice, generally, in order to take care of these rounding differences, you may make the retained earnings. You may make use of the retained earnings figure. The table 3.4 shows the rounding account tab. So you can see the rounding account tab, it's like this. Now we may set the rounding account for this company what we are operating. The activity 3.5, it says that set 3100 CL, the retained earnings account, as a rounding account. Okay, we may do that. Go to this and we are in the rounding account. From the drop down menu, you can select 3100. You may either type it, you can easily get that. Yes. Now you have set the rounding account. So then when you are performing transaction in a later point in time, if you witness if there is a kind of rounding difference, and that would be taken to the retained earning. So that's what you do over here. Now let's come to the second important general ledger default. We call it account segments. By now we have set 2 levels, but the software allows us to go up to 5 levels. So depending on the size of the business organization, depending on the nature of the business organization, so you may have to decide the segments. So in our company, so at the moment we have identified that we are operating 2 separate divisions. One is denoted by CL, the other one is denoted by TR. So we found that the 2 divisions or the segmentation, so at 2 levels would be good enough. So therefore, in order to represent the company, we have used 4 codes, the 4 numbers we have used, and in order to represent division, we have used 2 characters. To represent the company, 4 characters. and to represent a division, 2 characters at the moment, together with a separator in between we have selected. Separate in between we have selected. So then it says the total account length is 7. But you know, we can, it says that we can go up to the maximum length of 15. The total includes the sum of the length plus the segment separators. So when it comes to this total, it is counted as the characters plus the segment separators. So here we have used 7. So altogether, so these characters and the separators altogether we can go up to maximum of 15. So that's what it says. Let's see the account segmentation. On the account segment tab, you can create or change segments for your chart of account ID. So here basically you can either create it or either change the segments. So in fact, this particular option was available earlier. So therefore by now you have created. So here the most sensible use, what you see, if you want to change this, then you may change accordingly, since we have already set. But if you haven't set that at the initial point, here you can even set the segmentation. You can set the segmentation. This will allow you to take full advantage of the masking and filtering features of Sage 50 when you print reports and financial statements. The benefit what you see of this account segmentation is that, so once you do a proper segmentation, so it will help you with the generation of different information by way of different reports. So when it comes to, for example, when it comes to the generation of financial statement, here we can see, if you want, you can generate financial statements for the division, only the division. Say that the division represented by CL, you may generate one. For the division represented by TR, you can generate separate set of financial statement. So that particular sophistication is there. So that is one of the benefits of this segmentation. So if you want to generate for the entire company, yes, it can be generated considering all the segments. You can generate them at the business level. And also if you want to do that at the division levels, the division level, say that you want to generate a statement of profit or loss, yes, you can possibly generate that, right? So the cash flows, yes, you may be able to. Likewise, the financial statement you can generate at the division or the different segment level. So that is the beauty of using this segmentation. You can use this feature for printing reports that are filtered by department, division, account ID, or any other segment you create. So depending on the segments you have, you can create different kinds of reports. When you initially create your company in new company setup, the Sage 50 gives you the opportunity to divide your account ID into segments. So this is what I've been referring. So when you are initially creating the company, you were given the opportunity to do this segmentation. In fact, you have used that. So ඒක තමයි පුතාට එක මම කිව්වේ මේක account segmentation එක කියන එක ඇත්තටම company එකක් initially create කරනකොට අපිට ඒකට අවස්ථාවක් දෙනවා. එතකොට අපි එතනදී භාවිතා කරා segmentation එක company සහ division කියලා level දෙකක් අඳුරගෙන ඒකේ characters 4ක් සහ 2ක් විදිහට together with the separator we have identified. But you can do it here as well. So if you did not do that earlier, now it gives you the opportunity to do that here as well. Then it says, if your chart of account is already set up and you change the segment structure, the Sage 50 will scan your chart of account and inform you if any accounts do not fit the new segment structure. Now, what you have done is you have set the chart of accounts. Now you have set the chart of account, right? So here, if you try to change the segment structure, right? if you try to change the segment structure, what happens is this Sage 50, the software would scan your chart of accounts. It will scan your chart of accounts and inform the inconsistencies. So if it finds it is not inconsistent with the chart of account the segmentation that you have now proposed, then what it will do, so it will inform you it does not fit. But still you can work with that, but it will show you the inconsistencies. You can then print your chart of account report to identify those accounts. You can segment your chart of account ID by creating description, length, and separators for up to 5 segments. So here, as I told you, so here you can go maximum up to 5 levels. It purely depends on your requirement. So using the length and separators within the maximum of 15, you can create different segmentation. But here we found that the 2 segmentation is good enough to do our job, right? So it's about the account segmentation. Now let's try to make some change to this account segmentation and see whether the system or the software would inform us about any inconsistencies, because earlier we agreed that so if we change this account segmentation, then the software would have to inform us on the inconsistencies witnessed, right? So as a simple change, what we can do, we can make the division say 4. Let's say division, we want to take it 4 characters. So then the account structure would be something like this. Then it says as such. Then let's say okay. See, this is the message it gives. It says that the chart of accounts contain 40 accounts whose format does not match the masking segment. So in fact, we had 40 accounts in our chart of accounts. Then it says that the chart of account contains 40 accounts whose format does not match the segment structure. So this is what we've been referring to. Please review the chart of account report to identify format discrepancies. Click OK to continue. You've been asked to go to the chart of account report to identify the inconsistencies. So let's say OK, and let's go to our chart of accounts as it was said. So you can go to the list. So in fact, we know that it is not that. So if you generate the reports, you can see, yes, the inconsistencies are clearly witnessed. So we know now we have only 4 characters for the company and 2 characters for the division. So therefore, obviously, so it's a mistake. Even let's try to enter a new account in a different format. Let's try that. Say that you want to enter expense account, say 8,500 or something. 8,500. Let's say that you're trying to enter it in the same format, say CL, and let's try to give a description, and let's say it's a particular expense of the business organization, say loss on sale of motor vehicle, loss on sale of loss on disposal of motor vehicle or something, disposal of motor vehicle, and it's expense account, and let's try to create it, and let's try to save it. See, it gives us a warning message. It says that the format of this account does not match the format defined in the general ledger default. Would you like to save it anyway? But still, it gives you the chance to save and proceed, but it gives you a message that you are not following the general ledger default. So therefore, this is the uh, kind of comfort that you would experience so in this particular software message. So when and where the discrepancies are noticed, the system itself will give you the warning message. So it will warn you. So therefore, the things can be done in more accurate way. So the system facilitate for the accurate information generation. Right? Let me say, no, I do not want to create this account. So therefore, I can simply get rid from this. You have modified the current records and have not saved it. Do you want to save it? Say no, I don't want to save that. So if I simply go to the chart of accounts, so still the 40 records has to be there. Yes, I have 40 records because I haven't saved the new record. Right. So it is the expectation what we wanted to discuss. So that's what we want to discuss under the general ledger defaults. Now you know the whole thing that you expected to know with respect to the general ledger. Once you finish with the lecture on a continuous basis, so what you have to do is you have to take the backups. So you need to save the content what you have updated during the lecture. So even for your tutorials, you would have to do the same. So we'll be having the weekly sessions, the weekly discussion. So therefore, on a weekly basis, we will be updating the company what we are working. So in the today's discussion, we have discussed about how to create the chart of accounts. So in fact, we have created the chart of accounts. And also, most importantly, we have set the defaults. We have set the defaults of general ledger. So then at the end of the today's discussion, I might update this. Here we need to have the division as true. We may keep it. So this is what we have discussed in the today's session. Now we need to take the backup. So we need to save the things what we have added newly to the company what we've been working for, what we are working in. So then I will show you how to take the backups. So in fact, at the end of each lecture, each tutorial session, you need to take the backups of the companies that you are working in. So in order to take the backups, you can go to the file, then you have the backup option. So like you experience the restore option, here you have the backup option. Or otherwise, you can simply press Ctrl B, the shortcut that would also take you to the same destination. So I might click on the backup. Then it asks, this process will backup your company data and customized forms. Then it asks, include company name in the backup file name. So it asks us by default. So let me take the name of the company. Then if you keep this option, it will keep them as it is. Then you can take the backup. Then here, this is the default name it gives, the FMA 2020 Private Limited. But most importantly, the date is appearing. The date, the month, date, and the year is appearing. So therefore, it is quite easy for you to identify the latest backup. So therefore, it is recommended during the lectures, we may go by this default. But in case of your examination, you will be asked to rename this using your CPM number most probably. But here, we maybe simply go by this. Then you can select the destination folder. In my case, I'll be saving that to my documents. So in my documents, I'll be saving. And in your case, you can select your destination folder. So then by selecting the destination folder, or I might create for this purpose, even the creation is possible. Let's say it is the Sage 50 backup or something. I might create for one myself, backup, and You can save them there. Backup 2020 or something. Then you can double click and you can save your backup in the destination folder. Then this particular kind of dialog box would appear. It says that the company backup will require approximately 3.21 megabytes. Say okay. So it's a small space that it won't occupy. Then you have taken the backup. Now you are ready to get out from this company. So once you want to open it up, you have to follow the restore procedure. What we discussed at the beginning of this lecture on setting up general ledger. So you have to follow that process and restore that when you start working. And again, when you open up the software, if you want to have the initial or the original window, then what you can do is, so before you leave, you can go to this file and you can take the option close company. If you take that particular option, when you open the software again, you will be directed to the original window. Or otherwise, what happens is, if you do not leave that, so once you double click and open the company, you may straight away taken to the previously working company. So if you want to avoid that, so most of the cases that especially when you are working in the computers in the university, so that particular thing is quite helpful, because there's no guarantee that you would be working in the same computer. So therefore, when you leave, better to close the computer. So better to close the company. So therefore, here I will show that as well. So you may close the company. So once you close that, you'll be taken back to this original window. So once you double click and open it, the same would appear. Show you. So if I click open, something went wrong. Yes. So this is what I was talking about. So once you double click and open it, it will be taken to this original place. So with that note, we can finish the today's discussion. So in the today's discussion, we basically discuss about the creation of the chart of accounts, especially the coding and selection of account types. In that was we discuss more prominently. Then we discuss about how to modify and delete this chart of accounts. And then we have discussed on the defaults, the general ledger defaults. So that was the content what we had covered in this discussion. Now you can work on the activity that is given. So after studying this video lectures, you can start working on the tutorials. So your class activities, then in the discussion we'll be taking that into consideration. So with that note, we may stop the discussion. Thank you.